Hi everyone, it's Lynn Dion here from Pink Whisper Designs. Today we're going to be making a couple of cards using some products from My Favorite Things, and we're also going to be using the color combination from their current color challenge, which are Midnight Blue, White, Gray, and Teal. So let's get started. I'm going to start with the My Favorite Things die, the Diagonal Quilt Square cover. And then I'm going to go ahead and take 2 pieces of cardstock. This is the Bristol White 100-pound cardstock. And I'm going to cut these to 4.5 by 4.5. Now I'm going to go ahead and cut that first one just out of the white. But for the second one, I'm going to use the chipped sapphire and the peacock feathers. These are the Distress Oxide inks from Tim Holtz. And I'm just going to apply that color just randomly on the paper. Then I'm going to come in with the chipped sapphire and I'm going to do the same thing and just kind of fill in that whole square. And then the last thing I'm going to do is come back with the peacock feathers and just blend those 2 colors together. And don't be fussy, whatever you do here is fine because we're going to be die cutting it, so we just want some variety of color in there. So now I'm going to take my Distress sprayer from Tim Holtz, and this just has water in it. I'm just going to spritz it a little bit. Then I'm going to grab a paper towel and blot up that excess water. And that's going to give us a beautiful background to start with here. So now I'm going to go ahead and cut this one out of the white and one out of that multicolored background. So I'm going to place the die and the paper in my Spellbinders Platinum 6 machine and run that through, and then I'm going to do the same thing for the second one. When I remove these from the die, I'm going to try to keep them together in one piece just so I can put them back together. It's going to be kind of like a puzzle. So again, I used the Bristol Strathmore 100-pound cardstock, and here I have some gray cardstock, and I cut it to 4.25 by 4.25. And this is just some scrap gray paper that I had that is a 65-pound weight. I'm removing all the white pieces, and I don't need to keep them in order because they're all white, so it's not going to matter. And then I'm going to use the Nuvo glue tube here, the glue pen, and I'm going to just apply glue all over the back of that panel and attach it to the gray piece of paper here. That's going to give us the grid work. And then what we're going to do is take that other panel and start to put those pieces over on this side. So I'm just going to go ahead and glue all of those in place. Keeping them in the same order that I'm taking them off the other piece of paper there. And I'm going to go ahead and put that last one in. I'm going to leave the center one blank for now. I'm going to use that centerpiece on this second panel. So again, I'm going back with the glue pen, which has like a chisel tip on it, so it made it really easy to glue these down. And it's a thin glue, so it's not going to seep through or anything. So now I'm going to go ahead and glue that center panel in place as well. Just making sure I have it in the right direction there. So now with these, the white pieces, again, I didn't need to keep these in order. All these little triangles are the exact same size, so they're going to all fit right in place. And that white piece is going to go on the other card. So what was great about this particular die is I was able to get 2 cards out of the one project. So I love when that happens. So now I'm taking some soft finish Elizabeth Craft cardstock, and I'm going to make my cards out of that because it has a beautiful soft finish on it. And the cards will end up being 4.5 by 4.5. So I'm going to go ahead and glue those panels right on the front of my cards. And they will be top folding cards. I'm using the Tombow glue tape here in order to place these on. And then I'm going to go ahead and take that little panel there, and I want a stamp on it. So I'm going to take this set, a Tweet Hello, and I'm going to use the stamp Miss You Sweet Friend, and I'm going to cut it with my scissors just so I can put it on 2 lines. And for those of you who are like me, who have a difficult time doing that, just the more you get used to it, the easier it becomes. I know it's hard to do at first. But now I'm going to take the chip sapphire and I'm going to go ahead and stamp Miss You Sweet Friend right on that little square there. And then what I'm going to do is pop that up a little bit with some foam mounting tape. What will be nice here is you'll still kind of see the shadow of the gray underneath. But as I was going to place that on, I thought I would apply some hickory smoke all along the edges of that. This is also the Distress Oxide ink, just to kind of give it a little shadow and take away a little bit of that white. So I went ahead and inked that up, and now I'm going to position that right in the center there. So now for this one, I wanted to stamp a saying. I'm going back to the Bristol Smooth cardstock here, and I'm from the My Favorite Things set, the Gumball Greetings. I'm going to take You're the Best. So I've already placed it on an acrylic block, and I'm going to use 2 colors here. I'm going back to the same 2 colors, and I'm going to put the chip sapphire just on the word best, and I'm just blocking it off there with a little post-it note. And then I'm going to use the peacock feathers for the other side of it. And then I'm going to go ahead and stamp that. You can see that looks kind of cute with the 2 different colors of ink there. So now from the Die-namics set here, these are the rectangular word windows. They do cut a stitched line on the outer edge, and you'll see that when I die cut it, but we're not going to be concerned with that. I just wanted to cut the rectangle, which you could have easily just done with a paper trimmer. I just thought this would be easier. So I'm taking my Sizzix Sidekick from Tim Holtz, and I'm running that through. And you'll see there, that's what the stitch does. It does the outer edges of the rectangle, but we're just going to take that inside portion. I'm going back to the Hickory Smoke ink, and I'm just going to ink that up all around the edges. Again, just to soften that white a little bit. So now that I have that done, I'm going to go back to my Tombow glue glue tape, and I'm just going to apply a little tape to the back of that. And then I'm going to center it off to the right there. And just position that down. And off to the left, we're going to be putting a flower there. So I'm just leaving enough space for that. So here's the flower, and this is called the Rolled Rose. And this is a beautiful, really simple flower to do. And this is the leaf-filled Flourish. And so what I want to do is stamp maybe 3 of those. So I'm going to take the peacock feather. I wanted all the colors just to blend in together and match the color challenge. So I'm going to just ink up that whole sheet of paper in that color, just so I can die cut those flourishes out. Now I'm taking, for the flower, I'm going to use a 65-pound weight, just something a little lighter, and I'm going to ink it up with the chip sapphire, and I just need enough to die cut that rose from, but I also want to put the ink on the back side of the paper, because as we roll this rose, we're going to see both sides. So now that I have that, I'm going to die cut 2 of the flowers, and like I say, 3 or 4 of the little flourishes there, whatever I can get out of this one sheet of paper here. So I'm just running those through the Spellbinders Platinum 6 machine. Now I'm going to grab my Sizzix sculpting tools. And these come with 3 tools and this little foam mat here, and I believe tweezers and a pair of scissors come with this set as well. I will give you that information below. And what I'm going to use is that first sculpting tool. It has a little, like a curve on it with a little point. You can see that the die did emboss the veins, but I'm going to make those a little deeper a little bit more exaggerated by running that little sculpting tool right down the center. And then I'm just going to grab and kind of pinch those leaves together. You can bend them a little bit with your fingers and sculpt them a little bit more, just to give them a little more dimension. Now I'm going to take that ink and just rub it around the edges a little bit, just to take away some of that white. Now with this sculpting tool, I'm taking the larger ball tool, and I'm just breaking down the fibers of the paper a little bit here. Just pressing down onto that sculpting mat and pressing into that paper and just kind of rubbing it back and forth, just to kind of, again, break down the fibers a little bit, make it a little more pliable when I go to roll the flower here. So then I flip it over, and from the underside of the petals, I'm going to just take that smaller ball and just go around the curved edge of those. And that is going to help me roll this flower as well, and it will also cause the petals to roll backwards more easily, and you'll see that when I go to put the flower together here. So now that I have that done, I'm going to go back to the chipped sapphire, and I'm just going to go around those edges. You can see that they're a little bit white on the ends there, and I'm just going to cover that up. I'm going to flip it over and do the same thing around the front side. Now I'm going to be using the Ranger multi-medium mat to attach this together, so I have it ready here, and I'm grabbing my tweezers, and I like to just pinch the end, and then I start rolling it. And I really don't move the flower, I move the tweezers. And I know this may look strange, but it works for me. So whatever works for you. If it's easier for you to just roll the paper with your hands, with your fingers, do that. But I like to just put the tweezers in there and just start rolling it. It works really easy. I'm just so used to doing it this way. So now you can see that I rolled it very tight. I'll let go of it a little bit here and let it unravel a little bit. It was just too tight. Now you can do as much or as little of that as you want. So practice this. I unraveled it just enough to give it a little softness. Then I'm putting that glue there, and I'm going to hold it down for a couple of minutes until that dries. And then I'm going to grab my tweezers and just start rolling those petals back a little bit. Just kind of get in there. And you've already broken down the paper a little bit and softened it with the sculpting tools. So now it's much easier to kind of roll these back. So it really helps if you work the paper a little bit before you do this. And then you can also take your fingers like I'm doing here and just kind of press and push those petals down. The paper is much more resilient than you think it would be, and it will make a nice solid rose, and you can see how pretty that is. And I'm going back with the chipped sapphire and just adding a little bit more color to the edge of those petals there. So now I'm going to take that Flourish, and I'm just trying to figure out where I want to position that here on the card. And the flower is going to go down in that corner. So I'm snipping away that leaf there. And anytime you snip any little pieces off, just re-ink the edges a little bit so that they look finished. And then I'm just going to position and figure out where I want the rest of these little leaves to go. So I'm just cutting off some from the excess flourishes that I made, and just trying to figure out, tuck a couple more there in that corner just to fill that in. And I thought I was going to keep that little swirl, but in the end I decided to cut that off. I just thought it got too busy there. So again, once you snip that off, just go back with your ink and just ink that up a little bit. Now I'm going back with that multi-medium mat, and that's how I'm going to attach the Flourish with that. I'm not going to put any glue on the backs of the leaves because I want them to pop up and be a little bit dimensional. So I'm just going to position that down. And now I'm going to add the rest of the leaves here. You can just keep checking to make sure you have everything lined up the way you want it to be. And then I put plenty of glue on the rose itself, just to make sure that it doesn't move around. And then I usually do hold it down for a minute or two, just to make sure that it's dry. And then I cut a couple more little leaves, and I started tucking those in, just to fill in that little area up the side there a little bit more. So you can go ahead and play around with those as much as you like. Now this is the second rose, and you can see that I let that one unravel a little bit more than the one I did for the other card. And you'll see why in a minute. So for now I'm going to take a couple more of those leaves, and I'm going to go ahead and glue those on. And I'm using plenty of glue here. And I like to make flowers ahead of time, so I have like little bins where I'll make roses in all different colors and leaves, and I just put them in a container, and then when I need some, I have them and they're ready to go. And it's also a good way to practice. So these are the Sparklettes embellishments from Buttons Galore and More, and this is the Sea Level collection, but there are many collections and they're all beautiful. And then I'm going to take my Marvy jewel picker, and I'm just going to go ahead and put one of the pearls in there. And I'm just showing you there that there's two different ends to this, a little larger and a smaller one, depending on the size jewels that you're using. So I'm going to just put a little puddle of that Ranger multi-medium matte in the center there and glue that little pearl in place. And then I'm going to go ahead and select some other little jewels from this collection and place them on the card here. And I'm just selecting a variety here just for a little bit more color and a little bit more interest. And then I'm going to go ahead and take my Ranger multi-medium matte and apply that to the card, and then just put those embellishments in place there. And I chose this because it's a very secure adhesive, and these will not come off if they're going through the mail or whatnot. So now I'm going to do the same thing over here. I'm just going to, for that center one, I decided to take a sequin and a little pearl and put the pearl inside the sequin there. And then on the little Flourish, I decided to go ahead and grab some of the little rhinestone looking ones and place them all along that Flourish. Just pretty much selected all the same shape, and just there were a couple different sizes, and just placed those down, and I'm going to glue everything in place here. I did go back and select a little larger sequin there, so if it looks different, that's what I did. I went back and got a little larger sequin. And it's kind of fun to stack these up and get different combinations. So there you can see all the dimension we have in those beautiful rhinestones. And I just think these colors are really interesting together. This was a fun challenge to do. I really enjoyed it. So I hope you enjoyed today's cards. So we got a 2-for-1 special here. So if you did enjoy the video, please hit the thumbs up button and subscribe. And don't forget to visit me at my website, pinkwhisperdesigns.com. Thanks so much and have a great day. Bye-bye.